I was talking to my sister about it, right? So, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like these bits of gray, and I like showed her, and then my niece just owned me into the ground by saying, "Wow, you look really old," and I was like, "Fucking hell, man!" Like owned by an 8-year-old.
Yeah, they'll do that.
Yeah. Anyway, have you? Wait, I got an important question for you. Have you heard Euphoria yet? The Kendrick Drake diss track.
I have not. I have not listened to it. I'll be honest. I was indisposed a lot of yesterday doing other stuff, and I saw people talking about Euphoria. So I saw people talking about the Kendrick and Drake diss track. Mm-hmm. I did not know it was called Euphoria. I thought the reason that people were talking about Euphoria was that they brought back that HBO show, Euphoria.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So now the two things have been linked, and now I can delete this and be like, oh yeah, totally. Knew everything about Euphoria. I do know that Kendrick once again called Drake gay.
Well, now look,
good, good for him. Do what you do. I'm not here to judge anyone. It's
I spent an hour reading the Rap Genius analysis of it this morning. And, it's like a triple entendre. It's a triple entendre. I'm a public intellectual. I am a public intellectual, okay? So I had to get to the bottom of this shit. And so, I mean, for example, that lyric, we can interpret it as Drake gay, okay? We can interpret it as Drake misogynist. True. True. The records are there. The receipts are fucking there on that one. And we can also interpret it as Drake grooms young girls. Right? Because they don't like, because the lyric is, I'll be honest, I think you don't like women. Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I'm reading some of the lyrics now. I am, as a as a white guy, and
I would fake my death.
As someone who stopped listening to new music a few years ago, I'm inclined to side with Kendrick on this. That's
Correct.
Just that's just my point of view. Him and Pusha T. Good for them.
You know what? It's just real poke the bear hours. Yeah. I just don't even understand why Drake has done this. Like, there's absolutely no way that he was ever going to win this. So why did he do it in the first place?
What did he say? What was the thing that instigated this?
He released a track first because he's a fucking moron. And
was that the track that he released, and then he kind of took it back? He was like,
he had to take it back because he got a cease and desist from the Tupac estate because he was using an AI generated Tupac. I'm not even making that up,
bro.
It's it's the weakest sauce I've ever heard. It's like, at the Tupac estate, we're like, A, we absolutely do not sanction this. B, we like Kendrick. It was like, Jesus Christ, man. Fucking hell. I would fake my death. I would change my name. I don't know. I just would never. I don't understand how you come back from any of this, really. It's. Yeah. My favorite bit is the one where he's talking about how he doesn't like it when Drake uses the N-word, and then he's like, that shit's just corny. It doesn't even have to be that deep. And I was like, I'm like, oh my God, I would just, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I was trying to listen to it.
I'd crawl in a hole and die, man. If somebody aired me out like this, if somebody aired me out half this bad, I would just be like, but after they call out your secret son, why are you still doing, why? You have a bunch of fans who regardless of what you say in these songs, will just be like, Drake got the best of them, whatever. It's like, okay, fine, but why would you court it against again, like, there's no way you need money, no way you need hits on anything that bad. Like, produce, like, he's got his thumb in everything. Like, there's no way. And it's just like, I don't, like, it at this point, it almost seems like a humiliation fetish. Like, it really kind of does.
Okay, so, like, just, like, even in, like, the first bit, that I make music that electrify him, you make music that pacify him, I would kill myself. Don't tell no lie about me. I won't tell no truth about you. Out. Like, what do you even do? Like, what do you even do? Like, it's... I mean, I don't even, like, know what to say. You know, that's before he gets to the whole bit where he, like, puts on a fake Canadian accent to make fun of him. It's like I don't know, man.
I'm definitely going to have to go listen to this after the episode because, yeah, I like, again, I talk about it like I am terminally online, but I am obtuse about certain things. Like, I just sometimes won't put it together. I was doing stuff in the garage yesterday, like in and out, stuff like that. I occasionally got online to, spout off about whatever, and then, went back, and it's like, and here I am. I was like, oh, I guess I brought that show Euphoria back. It's like, no, that was something. And the thing about it is, I knew about the diss track, and I knew that, like, Drake had gotten cooked. Like, or everybody that I would trust on the subject that said he got cooked, and I was just like, cool, that's cool, and I just didn't think about it because, like, after the last diss track. After the one where he
you think about
name drops the dude's secret son, I was like, why would I even listen to another one? Because that is just like brutal, absolutely fucking brutal. And he's just like, nope, back for more carnage, back for more abuse.
He beat Meek Mill once, right? Like, one time, and it's like, okay, but that is not the fucking same thing as, like, Kendrick. It's just, I mean, it's got to, I think you're bang on. Maybe this is a humiliation fetish. Maybe this is what he likes.
I just don't, I don't know, man. Maybe he's just one of those celebrities who is literally, like, no news, all news is good news, If they're talking about me, I'm in the spotlight, I'm in the limelight, I'm making money somehow, I'm making moves. I don't know. I don't know. But then again, like I said, I stopped listening to new music, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago because I'm old. And yeah, but good for them. I'm going to give Kendrick the W here.
I probably would have anyway.
Certified rap knower. Yeah, like if all I had ever known was just like that they did diss tracks, I'd be like, yeah,
probably Kendrick one. Yeah.
There you go. It's over. Yeah.
Well, we can talk about medieval history now. I'm just I'm just wiling out. Okay. I'm just wiling out. That's all.
Yeah. That's funny. No, I just didn't. Yeah, I just didn't know that's what people are talking about. Because she's like, oh, you got to check this Euphoria shit, and I was like, didn't that like a season finale like a year ago, and now they like kind of didn't bring it back. I was like,
oh, they bringing it back.
Maybe they announced it. Good for those. Good. It's not my show, but good for those kids who are really into the weird show about I don't know, whatever it is, 14-year-olds doing drugs, and being gay and being cool or whatever. Way cooler than I'll ever be. But yeah, good for them. Cool. You want to talk about?
Yeah, let's do our job. Yeah, let's.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Hello, and welcome back to We're Not So Different, a podcast about how we've always been idiots. My name is Luke Waters, and I am the idiot. And as always, I'm joined by Dr. Eleanor Yanniga, who is the savant.
That's right.
And today we are talking about weird stuff and things. We've got more of it incoming. But first, we have a question from one of our patrons, Archbishop Absalon's Ample Ass. He says, "Hi, Luke and Eleanor. I really enjoyed the episodes on medieval fashion and was wondering if you could talk more about the fashion industry at the time. In trend-setting places like France and northern Italy, did wealthy people mostly commission clothes from their own staff, or did they shop for clothes made by independent artisans? Did trends spread exclusively through nobles visiting each other's courts, or did garment makers have other ways of learning about new styles? How wealthy could you become selling high-end clothing to aristocrats?"
Oh, this is a great question. And the answer is that, if you are really top drawer, you are someone at the palace, you probably have staff. All right. And you probably have the best of the best. Now, having said that, you can come up and make it to palace staff, and that's kind of like there's a ladder you can climb. And so you might start out doing really high-level stuff for burghers in the city or whatever. And then if you get a reputation for that, then a noble might take notice and then bring you on staff. And then if you get a reputation there, or there are people who definitely own shops. Right. And some people do stay independent. But the thing is, if you can kind of be on retainer with a palace shop, at a palace, then that is kind of easier living sometimes where you're just kind of there. But if you retain your own shop, you can, in theory, make rather a lot of money there. And we know that people make rather a lot of money because we've seen, for example, wills of people who own clothing shops. And they own houses and sets of clothing, and they're leaving all this money, right? So it kind of really depends on what it is that you want to do and what your training is and where you've come from. So you might wish to be on retainer in a palace, and that's fine living, but you are then there all the time. If you have your own shop, you could do stuff like take time off, go on pilgrimage. Move around. You're not going to be able to do that if you're at a palace because you will maybe have to travel with people. Maybe you're just at their whim, that kind of thing. So it's kind of a trade-off one way or another about what it is you want to do. Now, in terms about learning about new fashion styles, yes, courtiers learn it from other courtiers, but there is also a fair amount of back and forth within echelons of business people at higher levels. So you might, I don't know, go up to the lowlands to be on a cloth buying expedition, and then you'll see some other clothing there and go, maybe you go directly to champagne fairs in order to buy wool, and you see different things there. There's some moving around because for business people, there is rather a lot of money to be made. And so they do travel. And again, you might travel for pleasure. You might go on pilgrimage. You might do things like this and learn things. Having said that, we have fairly distinct dressing styles in certain places. So, for example, especially in the kind of 14th and 15th century, German women's dresses do this thing where they like to have big folds of fabric, right in the middle, that they then bunch over belts just to kind of show how much money they have. And it's look at all that fabric I'm not using, and it also kind of gives you a belly, which is sexy. Right. And so, but it's a very specifically German thing. It doesn't catch on other places. Right. So
they were like, "That's dumb as shit. Get the fuck out of here."
Right. It's if you see that, you're dealing with a German speaker of some description. Yeah.
Yeah. It's you see that, and it's a guy who wears this cod piece. He's trying to make himself look way bigger. It's dude, we know it's not that big. It's not iron hard, and the other women are she's skinny as fuck. She's trying to play she's got a little tummy. Get the fuck out of here, lady. Back to the...
She got no meat on them bones.
No meat. Birthing hips, none. I know that those two things aren't related. Just, yeah.
But we do know that also, a lot of the times it's rich people. Right? So, for example, in England, the hennin, which is the princess hat that you think of when you think of a princess. So it's either the big cone or the one with the two.
Yeah.
The one with the two gets introduced to England through Anne of Bohemia, the Czech girl who marries into the court. And everyone is like, oh, shit, you know, and then it's like, her hat got two horns. And then it's like.
And they were like, oh.
What? You know, and so it's like.
These things are so good, we should invent breakfast items that look like them. Somebody make a cinnamon bun. Stat.
Let's go. So yeah, like we do have instances, for example, where we can point to the person who does this shit, right, and where it comes from. So it just really depends. But sometimes with that, it's like the henna. It's like really distinctive styles of clothing where we're like, oh, there's the person, right, as opposed to like. I don't know, when you start getting like the longer sleeves and stuff that come in, like in the 14th century, we like the hoopalandas, which is kind of like a unisex garment that can be worn in various ways by men and women. Like we think they come in through France, but we don't have like a person who introduces the hoopalanda, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the answer is it's all like up in the air, but you can make a lot of fucking money. And it all just really depends on how these ideas get spread, I suppose.
Yeah. Medieval people hitting a "what are those" to some guy who's some guy at court who's wearing shoes that don't have curly toes on the end. It's just like, what the fuck, man? Don't you want to be one of Santa's elves? Get the fuck! I'm sure it's
when someone brings in like accurate. The long skinny and it doesn't curve up, and they're like, "Oh shit."
Oh, shit. Get his ass. Oh,
I bet that motherfucker going to have to walk up them stairs sideways. Hey.
Oh, man, folks. Middle-age insults. You never get old. Archbishop Absalon Zample asks, thank you so much for the question. If you would like to ask us questions like these, please do subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/WNSDpod. You guys know the deal. $5 a month. You get all of these episodes ad-free. You get bonus episodes, like the one we did on European medievalism in Japanese art last week, and our upcoming book club series on The Name of the Rose will start soon. So yeah, if you want to check that out, then you should subscribe. It's fun and cool and stuff. But yeah, anyway, on to the main show. So, I actually wanted to say one thing. So we had a question like a couple of months ago from someone who was like, how many, how did the Holy Roman Empire, how did their record keeping go? How did this happen? You know, like how extensive was it? And the answer to how extensive it was, at least partially, came this week in a paper that is about like itinerant rule and the Holy Roman Empire. And it's complicated. I mean, it makes sense, but it's complicated, hard to explain. But the point is that the four named authors on this paper reviewed something like 72,500 documents to find to track these from from 919 to 1519, so 600 years, and so almost 73,000 documents. So like,
and that's what survives, right?
How much documentation did they have? A lot. So fucking much documentation. Anyway, Dark Ages, yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, and that is the thing, right? Like, this is what survives. So there's more.
Exactly.
There's even more than that. And
there's so much more that, you know, is like stuffed in something or thrown away or dissolved.
Or, you know, when the consolidations of various libraries happen, they get rid of things, you know, and so that's huge. And I suppose the thing to just remind everyone is German people existed in the medieval period and they were on that shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, there it is.
They wanted to keep their records. Yep. So yeah, that's news you can use, I guess, or at least further expounding on an old question. But yeah, they kept a whole lot of fucking records, which is funny because it's helpful that they have so many, but also incredibly confusing.
True.
So on to the main show. So this is it. We've reached the 7th and final episode of our series on weird medieval shit, and what a long, weird trip it's been. Well, I mean, it's not that long for us. It took barely 2 months, but long in the scope of what we've covered. We briefly went back to some 300,000 years ago as we traced humanity from its origins in Africa to the peopling of every piece of inhabitable land on Earth when we followed Polynesian navigators on their journeys. We also made a quick stopover in the classical era to look at Chinese astronomers, their guest stars, and visible supernovae. Of course, we covered the whole range of the medieval era, which runs for about 1,000 years, give or take 100, depending on your exact start dates. Either early on in the Middle Ages, there was the Byzantine Emperor Justinian's crazy plan to steal the secrets of silk from China using 2 monks that somehow worked. Later in the era, there were sweet potatoes making their way to Polynesia somehow, Viking settlements in Vinland, Mansa Musa's topsy-turvy pilgrimage, the Fourth Crusade, and then the Ming treasure voyages. We even committed a very, very grave sin by going to the early medieval period to talk about 2 more supernovae. Supernovae. There we go.
There you go.
Mea culpa, or I guess aura culpa. Woo, get fucked, people who speak Latin. I do not care. So we covered a lot of time, but we also went
right
all
here,
over
bro.
I know you are. I know you are. I meant everyone else, not you. I'm sure. What is the plural? What is the plural possessive of mea culpa?
It'd be nostra. Nostra culpa.
Nostra culpa. Okay. Yeah. Nostra culpa. Excuse me. I like aura culpa better. It also
I like it.
I
like
fake
it.
Italian.
It's good. Aura culpa. Hey.
Yeah.
It's a me.
Yeah. So it's a me guy who doesn't give a shit about Latin. Hey. So we hey. I'm just covering all the accents. Hey.
You could always do
French
a fake
soon.
one. You could always do a fake Italian accent. It's always okay.
Yeah. So we covered a lot of time, but we also went all over the globe, and I guess even technically went into space to talk about exploding stars. But regardless, we traveled all over. Looking at events on every continent save Antarctica, and I'll be completely honest with you, I really did try to find something for Antarctica, but the lack of people riding anything, I don't know. I guess
penguins down there going
there.
quack quack quack, homie. That was what was up down there.
Yep, there were polar bears and penguins and probably other things. But yeah, hell, we fully circumnavigated the planet by sea as Polynesian and Norse explorers made their ways from the old world to the new centuries before that hack Christopher Columbus was even born. Mm-hmm. We also didn't discriminate against the empires we focused on, talking about both the Mongols, who had the widest empire ever, and the Inca, who maintained the tallest empire ever. There was also a wide mix of weird events, from some of the most important things in world history, like the Chinese invention of gunpowder and the hegemony of the Catholic Church, to fun little stories like the Danzig Plague or the Erfurt latrine disaster. It's been a fun series, and we're going to close it out today with a few quick hits of weirdness that we haven't covered yet before we get to the event that often marks the end of the Middle Ages, the Fall of Constantinople. Oh, all right. So, we got a few here. First up, Joan of Arc. Eleanor, I mean, we talked about it a few times, but, it's still really weird that, any of this happened at all. They let a peasant girl talk to the king. They let a peasant girl lead a military. They let a peasant girl cross-dress, even though that was illegal, according to church and local law. She was one of the big factors to lead them out of the doldrums after they lost another entire crop of nobility at Agincourt. So, it seems like one of the weirdest things that has ever happened, given, the patriarchal society and the class society that they had, because it's not like male peasants who are allowed to just walk up to the king and be like, hey, got some military advice for you here, sire. So, how fucking weird is this?
It's so weird, right? And, that's part of why she got sainthood, other than the whole, being killed by the English and Burgundians for kicks or whatever. But because pulling this off, right? Pulling off the feat of being taken seriously by the nobility and royalty is in itself a miracle, right? And you can also just see this in the story because it's like she doesn't get taken seriously right away. She gets like a local fan base, and she tries to go speak to like garrison guards, because she knows she's got to kind of like work the system on the way up. And they're like, get fucked, like get the hell out of here, right? And it's like basically it takes the conversion of a couple of knights, and then they convert the local guard, and then it kind of like works its way up the chain. So it's a really interesting one because in a way it also kind of follows like early medieval patterns of sanctity for saints, right? Where like local devotion can be enough to turn you into one. But by this point in the medieval period, like that is absolutely not true. And the church, I don't know, just because people went around making dogs saints, like that's some kind of problem or something. Like the church had a handle on that, right? And this is kind of like the same thing is true here. And even then, it was really unusual, like to make a peasant the saint. Like peasants don't get made saints, rich people get made saints. So what is interesting here is that kind of like political coup, right? And I mean, I suppose to a certain extent when she's first brought in, it's kind of like, oh yeah, cute. Well, this maps on to like this whatever weird prediction. I mean, evil people love a weird prediction, right? Yep. And so they love a prophecy, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is that prophecy or whatever. So there's kind of like something in it for the French royalty to a certain extent because it's like it's so low stakes. It's like, well, you're a nice little mascot. Like, here you go, you can run around on the battlefield. Here's a little flag, have fun. Right, and like
you're like, oh, that's cute. What's it gonna hurt? We're gonna lose to the fucking English anyway. And it's like, oh, she won. Fuck.
And then it's like
she lifted the siege of Orleans. God, wait, what?
And it's like her weirdness is what makes her successful too, because it's sort of like saying, I don't think that that's a good plan. And we should put the cannon here instead. What she kind of has is like outsider know-how because she's not following rich guy tag rules of war. Yeah. So she can win some victories, and it's like her weirdness that allows her to do this because the nobility would be like, oh well, that's not dignified. Yeah. Or like that's not appropriate. A way to kind of comport yourself, and she's like, well, I have no fucking concept about that. Hey ho, it's just like a completely different vibe on that one.
Yeah. What? Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. So it's just interesting because it is her weirdness that makes her successful for quite some time, like until we're talking like post coronation of the Dauphin, and then it gets a little like, ooh,
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the weirder things, and one of like divine intervention. She had an untreated brain disorder, or she really could see visions of the future. Whatever it happened to be, her like basically like putting her foot down and being like, king, you have to get crowned. You have to get coronated at Rem. You have to do that. And he's like, are you sure? It's like, this is not like deep, like arch politics you learn from like the great Machiavellian people of history. She's like, yeah, go get yourself crowned. He's like, well, we didn't even consider this idea.
I know, right?
This is shocking. Like, and she's like, it'll make people excited. It'll give them hope. And they're like, huh, giving people hope? Well, I get, I've never heard of such, but I get, it's just like,
it's funny, right?
Like, yeah, it's just nuts. Like, it's nuts that like she was the one that suggested it. Even weirder that like, I guarantee you someone had talked about it, but that they were kind of like, what a novel, a king being crowned in this day and age?
What?
Surely. No. I'm like, okay, ma'am. Yeah. Anyway, Joan of Arc, really cool. Story, really weird. I guess it's not cool if you're English, but whatever. It's not my problem. Cool story. Insanely cool that happened, and we just got this like little.
We love Joan of Arc, folks.
Yeah. I really don't know how you could be like, oh, I hate this story. Like,
I told you how she wrote to the Hussites, right? This is like, so like
maybe.
At one point in time, she writes this letter to the Hussites, like, yeah, good luck, like getting that one delivered, girl. And she's like,
to the Hussites from Joan.
Yeah, and she's all like, you're lucky that I am tied up with the English because I'm gonna come over there and kick your ass so hard. Like, she's mad at them. And
awesome.
And she's like, this is not appropriate. And she's just like, you are heretics. And she's just like fucking going off on one. So it's a real mixed bag for me. You know, it's quite funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like I was like, no, Joan, don't do it.
She's like, I hate you. Like she's she's
a Catholic, you know. She's
and part of the story, part of the other stories is like one of the like first like kind of nobles to like entertain this, like, you know, he was suffering from some illness, and he was like, maybe if she's seeing signs from God, she can heal me. And like she came in and was like, we need to do this. Also, the reason you're sick is because you're fucking your mistress. Stop doing that. Go back to your wife. And he's like,
no, but I really like fucking my mistress.
But why? I really want to fuck my mistress.
Relatable.
Yeah, relatable. Yeah, that's Joan. You know, we've talked about her before. Probably talk about her again. Incredible story. One of the weirdest things that ever happened.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Can't stop, won't stop. Speaking of can't stop, won't stop. You know, folks, it's the Holy Roman Empire. I promise, a personal promise to you to never stop talking about how weird the HRE was. We won't spend long here because, I mean, you know, we've done it before, but just to give you a few key points to highlight its weirdness. In short, it was such a mess of overlapping and contradictory boundaries and rights that made it hard to navigate at the time and utterly bewildering now. For every rule, there's an exception. At the top, there was the Holy Roman Empire, who also held the additional titles like the King of Italy and King of Germany, and sometimes, though not always, the King of the Romans. Within the HRE, there were no other kings under the emperor, except the King of Bohemia.
That's right.
Sometimes they didn't always have it.
Not always. Sometimes he's a duke, like King Wenceslas is a duke.
Yeah,
it's chill.
Yep. Yeah, but yeah, at its greatest extent in the 11th century, the HRE covered roughly 1 million square kilometers, covering much of continental Europe, and within that was a dizzying array of estates of every shape, size, and type, each with their own rights and privileges. There's your archbishoprics, your normal bishoprics, your abbeys, your courtship, your countships, aka counties, duchies, archduchies, lordships, landgraviates, margraviates, raugraviates, which is a territory held by a specific German family, the Raugraves, principalities, imperial cities, imperial free cities, imperial immediacies, Hochstifts, which are territories ruled by bishops who are acting as secular lords, imperial abbeys, imperial knights' territories, imperial villages, imperial countdoms, imperial fiefs, bailiwicks, cantons, and one single kingdom. They were further subdivided into imperial circles for administrative clarity. Initially there were 6, but 4 more were added later. At no point, however, did all the circles completely encompass all of the HRE's boundaries. Some were always exempted, like Bohemia, parts of Switzerland, and more. At any time, there were at least 1,000 of these estates in total and well over 200 major states. Despite their record keeping, we mentioned earlier, getting an actual number of estates during the Middle Ages is tough, but during the Imperial Diet of 1792, there were at least 1,500 total estates, and they were divided into 4 types of major states, which could vote in the Imperial Diet, and then hundreds upon hundreds of minor estates like knightly territories, countdoms, and fiefs, which could not. The 4 majors were 65 ecclesiastical states, 45 dynastic principalities, 60 dynastic counties, and 60 imperial cities. That is, I believe, 230, and as of right now in the world, there are about 197 recognized states. So just to give you a little sample there of what we're talking about. Also, there were trade and language barriers existed between many, or perhaps most, of the estates, leading them to band together and form their own leagues of cities or trading confederations with special membership privileges. And of course, the HRE served as the temporal sword, defending the popes and the Catholic Church's spiritual power throughout most of Europe. Except when the empire was fighting with the church, in which case they cooked up new anti-popes and fought the papal states. And then there's the Reformation. But that's way beyond the scope of this. Yeah.
I like
bewildering. I love it. I love it. I've talked about it before. I've talked about it. It's just, it's so, like, I'm really not making, like, somebody in the Discord chat was like, this is Luke when he's talking about the HRE, and it was that gif where the guy's turning Sensible Chuckle magazine. He turns the page and he goes, that one. And that is what I do. Every new discovery about the HRE is just something where I go, huh.
Yeah. Like, isn't it cool? I just think it's like, it's a weird little guy. And by weird little guy, I mean weird enormous guy. Yeah,
it's delightful. It's delightful. It was there for much of the Middle Ages, and then it just stuck around, like, outlived its usefulness or whatever as, a thoroughly medieval institution, but it was still there, just, like, as even as the emperors got, like, less and less powerful and were more of a joke, they were still like, this is still around until 1806.
Well, like, okay, so my PhD supervisor, Martin Rady, so he's like a legal history guy, but and he's a Holy Roman right? So he's written this Habsburg book, which is really good, and his latest out this year, The Middle Kingdoms, is really excellent. And I went to the launch for the Middle Kingdoms, and it was really funny because he was like, like all the time when you are in what is Germany now, you'll see signs that say things are allowed, right? Like, whereas, like, here in England or in America, it'll be like no parking or whatever, and they'll be like parking, right? And he kind of regards this as a holdover from the Holy Roman Empire, because when you have so many different sets of laws in very many places, it's not that you assume that everything is allowed until it isn't. It's that you need to be told what is allowed. Because it's like, well, what kind of, like, holds over, like, from place to place are the things that are allowed and not the things that aren't allowed. So it's a different way of thinking about legalities, because when you just have such a patchwork of things, it's like you kind of need to be told what you can do as opposed to what you can't do. Like, what are the freedoms in various places? Like, what freedoms do you have in a city? Yeah. What freedoms do you have in a principality or a margravate? Right? Like, what are the things that you are allowed to do as you kind of pass through, as opposed to what you're not allowed to do, which is how you get in trouble, right? So, and I was like, that's such a good point, right? Like, it's a really interesting way of thinking about it. And so, you get these kind of, like, bureaucratic tics as a result of it. This is how you end up with 72,000 pieces of things you have to sift through to write an article. This is how you, like, end up with, like, a kind of unsmiling bureaucracy that, like, lists your what you're allowed to do is by trying to sew together a patchwork like this, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's in some ways clearer, because it's like, well, you have a definitive answer about what you're allowed.
No, it is. I think, like, I mean, like, I am kind of making fun of it. Well, not kind of. I'm definitely making fun of it. But, like, in the same way that I make fun of Star Wars. I love, like, it's just so, like, at the same time, I'm like, what are we doing here? But also, I understand it. But also, like,
Word, I'm the same, but it's very much like, we're allowed to, right? If I see someone else making fun of the Holy Roman Empire, I'm like, I think you'll find.
Actually, like, it's like, it's not holy, it's not Roman, it's not an empire.
And I'll be like, I'll fucking kill you,
buddy.
I will. I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of it.
I was looking for a quote about something else, but it was about the HRE. I was looking for this C.V. Wedgwood quote that's really good about it. I couldn't find it, and just
Voltaire everywhere instead.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I'm like, okay, I got it. That's a good quip. I'll give him that. Like, it is a really, like, look, man, you won the branding war on that.
Yeah.
It's a really good quip. But, like, I'm just looking for something else. I didn't even put Voltaire's name in here. Like, what are we doing?
It was driving me crazy because I had to do, like, for work, I had to do kind of like introduction one for the other podcast. And, you know, and I start with that. And I'm like, we're going to talk about all the reasons why that's wrong. Right. And like, and never say that to me again. And like, I have it in there being like, never say that to me again. Yeah. And then like, I was posting it online and I was like, never say that to me again. What do you think happened?
Oh, man.
Like, so many men immediately started saying it to me. And I was like, you don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? Like, when I'm like, don't say that Voltaire quote to me. And then they all started saying it. I was like, you don't even know that's Voltaire. And like, oh, explain that to me. Why do you think why is that funny? Explain it. Why isn't it? Can you explain that? They can't fucking explain shit. You know, it's just, I hate it. Voltaire, I'll see you in hell.
I don't get why you would be like, you don't say that to me. Like, if you're friends with someone who's like, ha ha ha, you know, like your buddy says it, you're like, oh, you.
Yeah, if it was you, like, that'd be
like
fine.
Random strangers, it'd be like.
And they don't even have anything to back it up. They're just like, it's like
alone.
They hear Holy Roman Empire, and it's like the activation code for like boomer dads. It's like their sleeper agent cell is activated, and they have to immediately say it if they just hear Holy Roman Empire. And it's like, I don't want to hear shit off of some guy named Barry in the Midlands on this one.
If you're an American and you haven't done more reading or anything, I'm gonna guarantee you don't have like a firm grasp on the Holy Roman Empire, because that wasn't a thing that was taught at most American public schools for a long time. Like, it was like Magna Carta, maybe some wars or something, Columbus, Civil War, World War, like mention World War One briefly, and then World War II. You're just like, yep, well, there you go. That's history in a nutshell for you. Yeah. HRE, weird as hell, fun as hell. Couldn't do this without mentioning them.
I couldn't get up every day without her. Thanks, Holy Roman Empire.
No, thanks, guys.
My reason for living, the light in my sky.
You're the reason in my life. You're the inspiration. Yeah. Anyway,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Woo! I am old. That's right. All right. Next up, personal favorite of mine, Angkor Wat.
Hell yeah.
Wat. Woo! Angkor Wat was originally built as a Hindu temple in the 12th century by the Khmer Empire of present-day Cambodia by King Suryavarman II. Angkor Wat was later converted into a Buddhist temple within about 50 years and has stayed that way ever since. Simply put, Angkor Wat is astonishing. It is the largest religious structure ever built, and in fact, it's so large that it's nearly 1 million square kilometers bigger than the second largest religious structure, which is a Hindu temple in New Jersey. Huh. The more you know. The temple structure itself sits on a large square island in the middle of a square-shaped moat of water and is only accessible across 2 bridges. Due to the temple's massive size and the impressive moat that surrounds it, Angkor Wat is so large that it can be identified from space on a clear day. In addition, Angkor Wat is known for its signature Khmer architectural style, replete with those famous lotus-shaped redented towers, long hallways filled with intricately carved bas-reliefs and galleries, and a perfectly harmonious design according to the tenets of Buddhism. I quoted that from an article because I don't know jack shit about architecture. But the architecture at Angkor Wat looks. The central temple structure is said to resemble Mount Meru, a 5-peak mountain sacred to Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. The tallest central tower has also given rise to the Angkor Wat equinox, which is when the sun sits on the tip of the main spire as it rises on the days of the spring and autumnal equinoxes. This was intentional and, according to historians, shows that the Khmer had an advanced understanding of astronomy to be able to construct it that way. Despite becoming a Buddhist temple, the remaining original architecture contains much Hindu symbology, and there's even a really cool design that sort of looks like a stegosaurus, which is really neat, even though I think it's just like a lizard with like a lotus flower leaves behind it, but it really does look like a stegosaurus, which is really cool. And I personally choose to believe that the stegosaurus is still alive and it hides in the moat.
Yep, we're going with that.
Kidding.
Headcanon. There we go.
Don't take that seriously if you're one of those people who's like, oh yeah, totally. Like, yeah. Although it fell into disrepair after the fall of the Khmer toward the end of the Middle Ages and was subject to robbers and only minor upkeep, the temple has seen continuous use for religious functions since the Middle Ages. According to later inscriptions in the stone, Buddhist monks either made their homes in the neglected temple or came from nearby to perform their sacred rites and duties regularly over the centuries. Now viewed as a World Heritage Site and a stunning work of architecture, Angkor Wat was also viewed as the pinnacle of design and beauty in the Middle Ages, inspiring the Chinese explorer and architect Jing He to on some of the temples he built in China. So yeah, Angkor Wat is huge. It's really
so
fucking cool.
fucking big, dude.
The architecture on it, like I really don't know, like I don't know anything about crenellations or Oz and Eves and everything like that, but like it's just like you look at it and it's got like this like partially like stucco, like the edge, the outside of it, like you can tell, like if you rub your hand against it, it would be kind of jagged, kind of rough. Not like it would cut your hand, but it would just be like kind of gruff on it, and you're just like, it just, the way they did it is just so cool. It's got this giant moat, and I love it. It's cool as hell.
It got built really quickly too, like the original.
Yeah, it
stuff.
was only built in like I think it was like 20 years.
Yeah, it's like 20. It's like 20 some years. Like it was nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, they built it, and it's just like, there it is, like this amazingly cool thing, and it was only rediscovered, I think, in the very late 1800s by like British explorers or whatever. But it's like, you just got this like giant thing, and like now it's like it was just lost to us for hundreds of years. Lost to most people for hundreds of years, and like at any given time, it like it was clearly visible from space. Not that we could have seen it, but like, I think that's really cool because it's not like anybody ever lost the the Great Wall of China or anything.
I like how just people kind of like fucked. Well, I mean, there was always some people there, but I like how they were like, I'm not telling you about this. Like, keep it to myself. Like, I would. Yeah,
the monks are like, if more people come here, we have to do more stuff.
No thanks.
Oh, God. No thanks. Yeah, that's Angkor Wat. Really cool. We got two more. Next to the last one is, of course, the arrival of Islam, world's youngest religion, founded by the Prophet Muhammad in 610 CE, and from there began the rapid, nearly meteoric rise to power. Within a century, the religion of Islam and Islamic caliphates and kingdoms had spread across the Middle East, Northern Africa, into East and Southeast Asia, and even into the Iberian Peninsula. Though it suffered fundamental, still unresolved splits almost as soon as Muhammad died, its rapid spread of military might and the military might of its adherents made sure that Islam would stick around for the foreseeable future. Eleanor, it's really fucking weird. We just got a new religion, like, we just got a brand new one, and it like just like went up like gangbusters. It knocked out religions that have been hanging, like pagan,
like left, right, and
Zoroastrian, religions that have been hanging around, and they were like, nope, get fucked. This one is ours. Yeah.
And it's so like it's just like the uptake, right? Because like Christianity takes a long time to catch on.
Yeah,
for example, it's like, it's a weird thing that weirdos in the desert are doing for quite some time. But Islam, everyone is like, hell yeah, let's fucking go, like immediately. And you're like,
they were like, this guy knows what he's talking about. So much so that we already got, like we got four guys lined up who are,
Yeah, I love it.
The hidden, where's the occluded imam? Like, what are we doing here? Like,
I like it because it is a truly medieval religion. So I like medieval inventions, obviously, and so I'm like incredibly pro. Because hell yeah, medieval invention of Islam. Let's fucking go. I like all the cool architecture that it gives us. I like a plucky group of desert guerrilla fighters taking on an empire. You know, we like Dune too, guys. What can I say?
Yeah.
You know?
They wiped out the assassin. It's gone. Get the fuck out of here,
out.
You Persian bastards.
Woo!
You either worship Allah or you fucking die on your flame.
They fucking take Egypt off of Eastern Rome.
Yeah.
Get fucked, Byzantium. Eat it.
They were just like, that's ours. This is, and it's like, and they take, within 400 years, they take control of Jerusalem, and then a couple hundred years after that, they have permanent control of Jerusalem. Like it's just like
wild.
Yeah,
it's like
nuts.
It's just it's very difficult to kind of like even get our heads around something as fast as that. And it's such a a huge way that our world is informed now, and very cool, I reckon. Yeah.
It is. Islam, it's really cool. We did one of our very first episodes. We did a few on medieval religions, and we talked about Islam. Go back and check that out. Yeah, it's a lot. Lastly, our old friend, everybody's favorite, the Fall of Constantinople. So from the time the main Theodosian Walls were completed around Constantinople, around 413 CE until 1453 CE, the city of Constantinople was besieged about 25 times by various groups, including fellow Byzantines during civil wars, Roman Catholics, Sassanid Persians, the Umayyads, the Kievan Rus, the First and Second Bulgarian Empires, the Ottomans, and more. Of those 25 sieges over more than 1,000 years, not a single one was able to breach the Theodosian Walls. Though 3 of the sieges ended in success for the attackers, that was accomplished via either mutual agreement, internal betrayal, or other such dealings. The walls themselves were never taken. For more than 1,000 years, the walls and the unique geography surrounding the city stood up to everything thrown against it. Men, battering rams, catapults, trebuchet, naval assaults, siege towers, wall sappers, and even earthquakes. Unbeknownst to its designers, in the late Roman Empire, the wall was built tall and strong enough to withstand a full millennia of advancements in siege and military technology and tactics. Even toward the end, after regaining control of Constantinople from the Latins, when the Byzantine Empire had one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, the walls sustained. Even after the Ottomans conquered all the surrounding territories, and the Byzantines were reduced to just the city of Constantinople and a small surrounding chunk of land, the walls sustained. And that is weird and fascinating and cool. The Eastern Roman Empire probably should have fallen after they retook the city from the Latins, as the Byzantines were a spent force politically, with few remaining allies. But as long as they had those walls and nobody betrayed them, the walls would keep them safe. Until the inexorable twin marches of time and technological progress introduced gunpowder to the battlefield, and it finally reached the Ottomans, and the largest cannons ever made were forged. Even then, the walls still stood incredibly strong, holding out for 53 days under a constant bombardment of more than 50 cannon and numerous Ottoman tactical advances. But in the end, gunpowder won out, the walls crumbled, and the Middle Ages followed suit right along with them. The fact that they made these walls and they couldn't be breached for 1,000 years despite like serious advances in technology is, I think, one of the coolest things that has ever happened. Because I mean, like the Romans who built that, they had no fucking clue that stuff was coming. They were just like, tall walls, they'll keep us out. Put the chain in the Bosporus, along the Golden Horn. Yeah, we're good. It's just like, you did that, and we talk about it. We talk about how gunpowder was like the final like death knell for it, and it was. I mean,
but it took a while.
Clear, it took 50 days.
Yeah, like
50 days.
It's not like the gunpowder and it was immediately, rendered useless. It still took 50 days. It still took like sapping. It's like it took so many things.
It took Mehmed running like multiple feints and then sending his boats across the fucking dry land. His men like held their boats above their heads and went across dry land to attack from other like. It's crazy. It's just like
I think also with this, the thing we have to keep in mind too is that it also takes like a kind of useless emperor.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think if there had been better military tacticians or people who were just a little bit more together, that would have also played into it. And like that's how good these fucking like I was thinking about it, because I've been doing all this work on the Normans lately, and it's like. This is longer than like from the Norman invasion to now. That's this. It's like, imagine if the Normans built something that had like kept people out of Britain this long.
Yeah, they built a series of seawalls around the edge of Britain.
Yeah,
and no one, instead of the bullshit they tell themselves now, oh, we haven't been invaded. Shut the fuck up. Henry the Seventh invaded your asses, and so did a lot of other people. But that's beside the point. The Scottish did it like 1,000 times. I don't want to hear it.
I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it would be like if the Normans had put that up around Britain and no one was still able, like all the bombs and nuke or whatever wasn't able to like, to bypass it. And it's just like, it's crazy. Yeah. And I mean, like the fall of Constantinople is one of those things, again, it didn't inevitably have to happen like this, but I mean, like once they were surrounded and the fact that like the bad blood between them and the Roman Catholics, even though at that point really wasn't their fault because of the whole Fourth Crusade thing, but like with all that and with all the issues and like they had this incredibly bad blood with the Italian city states and everything, like it just wasn't, you can't even if the walls had held out another month, it still wouldn't matter because like you can't hold off the march of time and the march of progress forever. That's not how it works. It's that's it. It's a lot of weird, cool, dumb, funny, interesting, neat, shit. Some of it is stuff that I personally kind of hyperfixate on, and some of it is just other stuff that is like, well, that's kind of weird. Why don't we talk about that? And yeah, it was a fun series. I really enjoyed it. Good stuff.
One for us. Yeah,
one for us.
One for the homies.
yeah, exactly. So. Thank you everyone for listening. As I said, this is the end of the series on weird shit. We will be back next time. We're going to have an interview with Paul M.M. Cooper from the Fall of Civilizations podcast about civilizations falling apart and his new book and all that jazz. And then after that, we're going to talk to Everett from Age of Napoleon, talk about the Napoleon movie and what it really means to for a guy like Napoleon to destroy feudalism or serfdom somewhere. Yep. We're going to talk about kind of stuff like that. It'll be really cool. And then after that, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a one-off thing. Maybe we'll move back to another series. Who knows? We'll figure it out then. Yeah. Thanks for listening to everything. Eleanor, what's going on with you?
Oh, whatever. I did some things on the blog the last couple of weeks. I got some stuff from my travels in the Netherlands. Got a blog out the other week as well, so go check that out at going-medieval.com. You can check out my show where I pretend to be professional, Gone Medieval. Otherwise, your girl's on the socials. So I'm at Going Medieval. And also, if you want my Insta, that's Dr. Eleanor Yaniga, because someone else got Going Medieval and should give it to me. Yeah, there you go.
And they didn't even go medieval.
They didn't. They didn't.
Rat bastards. Boo. Yeah. Luke is amazing on the stuff. You can find my old show, People's History of the Old Republic, wherever you're listening to this. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.